Let's continue working on sample problems from section 7.7. First of all, we'll take a look at number 61. And it says two ships leave port at the same time, one heading due south and the other heading due east. So here's our port. One's heading due south, the other's heading due east. Several hours later, they are 170 miles apart. So here they are. It's 170 miles. Okay. If the ship traveling south travels 70 miles farther than the other, how many miles does each travel? Okay, so this is X, and this one travels 70 miles farther, so that would be X plus 70. And we can use the Pythagorean theorem because we have a right triangle. Sum of the squares of the two shorter legs is equal to the square of the hypotenuse, or the side opposite the right angle. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and multiply this out. Remember that you can write this factor down twice and FOIL it if you have trouble doing the shortcut. I'm using the shortcut. Square the first term, take the product and double it, and then square the second term. And 170 squared, 289. Okay, so we see we do have a quadratic at this point. So what we want to do is get it equal to 0 on one side. So I'm going to collect my like terms together and subtract the 28,900 from both sides. Gives me 24,000. Okay, so now I notice I can factor a 2x out, so that'll make my number smaller. So let's do that. 12,000. And we can divide by that 2 to get rid of it. Alright, so now we have A is 1, B is 70, and C is negative 12,000. If it looks easy to factor, I usually go ahead and factor it, but if it doesn't look easy to factor, I have a tendency to go with the quadratic formula, which is what I'm doing here. So X equals the opposite of B plus or minus the square root. B squared, 70 squared would be 4,900. Minus 4 times 1 times negative 12,000, all over 2 times 1. Okay, so let me see if I can simplify what we have here. 4,900, negative times the negative is going to be plus 48,000. Okay, and the square root of 52,900 is 230. Oops, I don't need that. I've gotten rid of the radical. Square root of that is 230. Okay, so now if we take negative 70 plus 230, that's going to give us 160 over 2, which would be 80. And if we subtract, we're going to get a negative 300 over 2. Well, a distance can't be negative, so we don't want to do that. So X is 80 miles. And so 80 plus 70, that would be 150 miles. Let's see. And it says, how many miles does each travel? So we've got those two distances. The one going due east travels 80 miles. The one going due south travels 150 miles. Okay, and one last problem. In this one we have a leaning ladder. It says a 13-foot ladder is leaning against a house. The distance from the bottom of the ladder to the house is 7 feet less than the distance from the top of the ladder to the ground. Okay, so here's our house here. Okay, and we have a ladder leaning against the house. And this is x minus 7, and this is x, and it's a 13-foot ladder. So we have the same sort of situation. Pythagorean theorem is going to apply. So if we square x minus 7, and 13 squared is 169, so I'm going to just go ahead and move it over. So we have 2x squared minus 14x minus 120 equals 0. And again, I'm going to factor out a 2 just to make the number smaller, since I can. Okay, divide by 2 on both sides. Alright, so this time I think I can factor minus 12 plus 5 equals 0. So we get x equals 12 or negative 5. So it doesn't make sense for this distance here to be negative, so it's going to be 12 feet. And let's see, in this case they ask us how, let's see, far is the bottom of the ladder from the house. So we have the 12 feet right here. 12 minus 7 would give us 5 feet. So that's the answer they are actually looking for.